The clubhouse had always been a place of control, not safety, not brotherhood, control. Every man who walked through its doors understood that once you were inside, you answered to something bigger than yourself. Loyalty wasn't earned with trust, it was enforced with fear. The night of the murder, fear was everywhere. The engines outside had gone silent, but tension hung thick in the air. Conversations were hushed. Eyes avoided each other. Everyone knew something was coming. No one knew who it was for. The man who would die that night had been loyal for years. He had bled for the club, broken bones for the club, buried secrets for the club. But loyalty has an expiration date in a world built on paranoia. All it takes is suspicion, and suspicion had been growing for weeks. Money had gone missing. Police pressure was increasing. A deal had fallen apart at the last second, like someone had tipped law enforcement off. In a criminal organization, there are only two explanations: incompetence or betrayal. And betrayal demands consequences. When he arrived at the clubhouse, he felt it immediately. The room felt smaller, colder. No greetings, no jokes, just silence. He tried to play it off, but his instincts were screaming. This wasn't a meeting. This was a judgment. They accused him slowly at first. Half questions, loaded comments, stories that didn't quite make sense unless you were already guilty. He denied everything, over and over, swore on the club, swore on his life. But the more he spoke, the worse it got. Every explanation sounded rehearsed. Every detail invited another question. Then the tone changed. Voices dropped. Smiles disappeared. Someone locked the door. In that moment, he understood something terrifying. This wasn't about truth. It was about sending a message. Whether he was guilty or not no longer mattered. What happened next was violent and efficient. No screaming. No chaos. Just a decision being carried out. One gunshot. Clean. Final. The body hit the floor and no one rushed to help. No one flinched. Because in that world, hesitation is weakness, and weakness is punished. They didn't mourn him. They erased him. His phone was destroyed. His bike was moved. His name stopped being spoken. By morning, it was as if he had never existed. That was the club's real power, not the violence, but how easily they could make a life disappear. But violence leaves traces. Always. Police found the body hours later, dumped far from the clubhouse. Execution style. No robbery. No struggle. This wasn't random. This was organized. And law enforcement knew exactly where to look. At first, the club closed ranks. No one talked. Not a word. They relied on the same code that had protected them for years. Silence. Intimidation. Fear. But pressure has a way of breaking even the hardest men. Surveillance footage showed bikes moving late at night. Cell towers placed members near the location of the murder. Burner phones lit up briefly, then went dark forever. Each clue alone meant nothing. Together, they told a story the club couldn't control. Then came the cracks. One member was arrested on an unrelated charge. Facing serious prison time, he started to talk. Not everything, just enough. Another followed, then another. Each confession contradicted the last, but the pattern was clear. The decision came from the top. The club president had ruled through fear for years. He never pulled the trigger himself. He didn't have to. His power was an implication. A look, a nod, a silence that meant more than words ever could. Investigators uncovered messages, vague but damning. Meetings arranged hours before the killing. Conversations that stopped abruptly afterward. Suddenly, the man everyone feared was the one under scrutiny. Arrests came fast after that. The same men who once stood shoulder to shoulder now sat alone in interrogation rooms, staring at blank walls, realizing the brotherhood they trusted would not save them. Some held out. Others broke completely. Loyalty evaporated the moment survival was on the line. In court, the truth came out piece by piece. The paranoia, the accusations, the decision to kill one of their own to maintain control. The murder that was meant to protect the club ended up destroying it. The president was convicted. Senior members followed. The clubhouse was shut down. The patches that once inspired fear became evidence locked away in plastic bags. And the man who died that night? He became a warning. A reminder that in organizations built on violence, loyalty is temporary. Trust is an illusion. And the same system that gives you power can erase you without hesitation. Even after the arrest, the fear didn't disappear. It lingered. Former members slept with lights on. Some moved out of state. Others changed numbers, names, routines. The club might have been dismantled legally, but psychologically, it was still alive. The rules had been burned into them for years, and fear doesn't vanish just because the patches are gone. Investigators later revealed how close the case came to going cold. Evidence had been destroyed with precision. Witnesses were coached. Stories rehearsed. The murder wasn't a mistake. It was calculated, rehearsed, and meant to be invisible. If a single member hadn't cracked, the truth would have stayed buried. The most disturbing detail wasn't the violence. It was how normal it all felt to the people involved. During testimony, one former member admitted that killing one of their own didn't shock him. What shocked him was how quiet the room was afterward. No arguments, no panic, just acceptance, as if the decision had been made long before the trigger was pulled. Psychologists later described the club as a pressure cooker. Years of loyalty tests, punishments, and obedience had rewired how members thought. Individual morality disappeared. Responsibility dissolved. Orders became destiny. By the time the murder happened, resistance wasn't even considered. The president, once feared by everyone who crossed his path, sat silently during sentencing. No emotion. No apology. Just a man stripped of authority, realizing too late that fear only works while you're untouchable. When the power fades, it turns inward. Families of the convicted watched from the gallery, stunned. Many had no idea how deep their loved ones were involved. To them, the club was just motorcycles and weekend rides. They never saw the rules, the punishments, the quiet threats that followed members home. As for the victim's family, closure was complicated. Justice came, but answers didn't erase the reality that he died surrounded by people he once trusted. People who called him brother. People who decided his life was expendable. Years later, former members still refused to speak his name publicly. Some out of fear, some out of shame. Because admitting what happened means admitting they were part of it, or that they did nothing to stop it. And that's the truth most people never see. The most dangerous organizations don't collapse because of enemies. They collapse because fear eventually consumes everyone inside. Paranoia turns loyalty into suspicion. Power demands sacrifice. And sooner or later, someone pays the price. What began as a brotherhood ended as a warning written in blood. Comment, like, and subscribe for more content like this.